Esto es... ¿Qué es lo más tonto que te ha dicho un estadounidense como lección de TikTok? Hola, estrellita Mug, vamos a ver esto. Me da curiosidad qué es lo más tonto que te ha dicho un estadounidense.
I'm kind of curious. What is the dumbest thing an American has ever said to you?
Okay, so I studied abroad in America in 2014. Yes, I'm that old.
Solo 10 años, te ves bastante bien.
And I got talking to a guy in a bar, and he asked me that age-old question if I ride kangaroos to school, and I was
Los Simpsons ya se burlaron de eso.
like, no, obviously I don't ride kangaroos to school. And then he asked me how long I'd been living in America for, and I said, oh, about 2 months at this point. And he's like, wow, your English is amazing for someone who hasn't been here that long.
En Australia se habla el idioma principal es el inglés. Eso lo sé hasta yo que soy española.
To which I had to laugh and say, we speak English in Australia. And he wasn't even ashamed. He was like, oh wow, really? You learn something new every day.
Bueno, al menos él admitió su error.
Okay, so I tell this story all the fucking time. But basically, I'm from Spain, which is in Europe, for those that don't know. And my senior year of high school, I was a foreign exchange student in Vegas, in Nevada. And
España, ¿en qué lugar de México queda? ¡Es gracioso! Porque le preguntaron eso a la novia de mi padre cuando ella fue allí. Cuando era joven, en los 90.
I was in my math class, and this girl that was white, blue eyes, blonde hair, and she comes to me. She's like, she says something like, "Is there a lot of people that look like me in Spain?" So I said, "Yeah, most people look like me, but there are some people that look like you because you're just blonde, blue eyes, like you said." And she was like, "Yeah, because you guys are not white or something like."
Oh, España.
That, and I was like, I am white, hello? And she was like, yeah, but not really white, but there's some white people because you guys...
Colonizados en el siglo... No, ¿cuándo fue? En el siglo... No el siglo V, no, en el siglo antes de Cristo. Si se refiere a los islámicos, al andaluz, eso fue en el siglo XI. Pero somos una gran variedad. O sea...
As were colonized, and I was like, honey, we are the colonizers.
Efectivamente, nosotros somos los colonizados.
So I'm German, right? 5 years ago, I was an exchange student in Mississippi, in the south of America. I was sitting in this classroom, this girl asking me, oh, you from Germany? I was like, yeah. She's like, do you guys have cars in Germany? I was like, are you serious? She was like, yeah. I was like, we invented cars, what are you talking about?
Efectivamente. Ella inventaron los automóviles.
Oh my god, I can make a lot of these because I studied in the US as a non-American for a year, so I've heard a lot of crazy shit, but here's one of them. So I was with a group of Americans and we were discussing whether or not we had seen a celebrity in public yet, because we were in New York, and sometimes in New York you can just see Zendaya walking around the street. And I had just gotten there, so I had not seen a celebrity yet, so I was telling them how in Prague that doesn't happen. But then I told them that I had seen a famous Czech YouTuber walking around my neighborhood once, and this girl was like, wait, Czech YouTuber? I don't get it. And I was like, what do you not get? And she was like, does he make videos in Czech? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, how does he do that? YouTube is in English. And I was like, no.
YouTube está en varios idiomas, en inglés, japonés, español, en portugués, en checo. Por cierto, la gente en Checa habla en inglés, puede hablar en inglés, en francés, etcétera. O sea... Hostia, tía, es que me estoy sintiendo hasta como medio... Me estoy sintiendo buena por ellos.
No, it's... What? And she was like, yeah, the videos in YouTube are English because YouTube is in English. Hello, it's for English speakers.
YouTube lleva hace idiomas desde que tengo 13 años.
I was like, I had to explain to this girl that most of YouTube is not in English and that the whole world uses YouTube in their own language. She was still confused.
So, in 2013, I went to America for the first time ever. It was to New York, and I absolutely loved it. I went for a family holiday. And while I was there, at one point, I started talking to this American girl. And the second I started speaking, she was like, "Oh my god, like, you have an accent." And I said, "Yes, I have an accent." And she goes, "Yeah, but like, your accent's different." And I said, "Yeah, of course it's different. I'm from the UK. I have a British accent. It's different to yours." And she goes, "Wait, I have an accent?" To which I said, "Yes, you have an American
Cuidado, Hiyori, se te van a morir leyendo ignorancia de usas. Puede ser.
accent. I'm British. I've got a British accent. You're American. You've got an American accent. A French person would have a French accent. And a German person would have a German accent." And this girl looked so confused and so bewildered. She just was not understanding that concept. And it just made me think, how closed off are you guys to the real world? Like, there's more than just America. Come on.
Okay, so it was
Sí, o sea, es como, no.
2017 and it was my birthday and I wanted to see with confidence and movements. So I went to Houston for this concert right here. I also kind of like Knucklepuck, like I knew a few songs. So at the end, I met the lead singer, Nick, and I was chatting with him and I told him that I went from Mexico to the concert, and he was so shocked and he asked me like, "Oh, how did you get to the US from Mexico?" And I was like, "Oh, I flew here like on a plane." And he didn't believe me. He was like, "You have planes in Mexico?" And I was like, "Yeah, we have."
El que es cantante debería saberlo. TP working.
Airports, international airports. So I explained to him how you could like travel to almost every part of the world from Mexico in a plane. And he was so shocked that there were airports and planes in Mexico. He just couldn't believe it.
A ver. Entiendo que México es tercer mundo y tal, pero o sea, tienen móviles y este tipo de cosas, entonces no puede, no es tampoco están tan mal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this video in English because it's so hilarious and I just want people to know, because ironically not many Americans know this. So I went to high school in Florida. When I first got there, I'm Latina, Hispanic. I don't remember if I was in a classroom or at lunch. I think it was before the class started in a classroom. And to some people, even though my English can be okay, gringos can tell I'm a foreigner. Oops. So this white girl that was in front of me, she heard me talking to somebody and she asked where I was from. So I said, "Oh, I'm from
de Puerto Rico."
Puerto Rico. And then she went, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry."
¿Por
Why?
qué?
It must have been so harsh for you to get here as an immigrant.
Puerto Rico es de Estados Unidos.
Not the colonizer not knowing they colonized me. No, I'm an US citizen since 1917 because Puerto Rico was invaded by the US.
Bueno, lo que pasa es que hace un par de años construyeron un aeropuerto en un pésimo lugar, con pésimos recursos, con un pésimo manejo y con pésima planeación, al punto en que terminó siendo una vergüenza internacional. A lo mejor es que por eso que se sorprenden la de que tengamos aeropuertos funcionales.
In 1898, but Puerto Rico is not in America.
Yeah,
Pero
really,
es parte de...
bestia, holy shit.
I'm late.
Pero yo, a ver, o sea, yo lo sé. Por West Side Story. Gran película, por cierto. Puerto Rico es de Estados Unidos y, de hecho, Pedro Pascal es puertorriquense. Era Pedro Pascal, ¿verdad? El Pascal nuestro amigo.
Late to the trend, but I need to tell this. So a long time ago, I was on vacations with my family in Mexico. And usually we have direct flights from Mexico to Lisbon. Yes, I'm Portuguese. And yeah, we had a direct flight from Lisbon to Cancun, and we were supposed to also have a direct flight from Cancun to Lisbon, but there were problems. So instead, we needed to do a stop in the United States. So when we stopped at the United States and they asked to see our passports, things got confusing. Because when the policemen took our passports for the control for checking, they said that we could not pass because our passports were wrong.
¿Por qué?
He said that where it says country, it should be Spain.
¡Pobre Portugal! ¡Pobre Portugal! Hostia puta. Hostia puta. Hostia puta. Tengo que seguir escuchando.
Because Portugal is not a country, but a city from Spain.
Entonces no saben lo que son las comunidades autónomas aquí en España, ¿verdad?
So I
No, terminó ahí. Yo quería saber más. Yo quería ver. Oh, no.
checked into a hotel in Boston, and he asked to see my ID. So I give it to him, and he notices I'm from Toronto. And he
Canada.
says, a lot of you Canadians come all the way down here, and I see a lot of people from Ontario. Is Ontario near Toronto? And I go, well, actually, Toronto's in Ontario. And he goes, really? Huh. Boy, your country's bigger than I thought it was.
Creo que Canadá es igual de grande que Estados Unidos.
And I said, well, actually, land-wise, Canada is the second biggest country in the world. And he goes, Canada? No. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can look it up. He's like, no. I go, well, what did you...
Nunca... ¿Qué gringos no han visto un mapa mundi? O sea, yo en la primaria he tenido mapamundis. En la secundaria he visto... O sea, tengo un puto globo terráqueo aquí encima mía. ¿Ellos no tienen de esas cosas?
Do you think the second biggest country land-wise in the world was? And he goes,
¿No han visto los Simpsons esta gente? O sea, sé que los Simpsons en teoría es una parodia de Gringolandia. Y los Simpsons muestran países. O sea, hasta los Simpsons son conscientes de que hay otros países aparte de Estados Unidos.
I don't know, Africa? And I go,
África es un continente.
Africa is a continent. And he goes, well, yeah, if you put it that way.
Creo que hasta Bart Simpson es más listo que todo esto juntos. Se en la universidad en Estados Unidos.
I go to college in the US. I was on a phone call with my advisor to schedule my classes for spring semester, okay? So at some point he goes like, wait, you're Italian. I love Paris. I've been there a few years ago.
París está en Francia.
And I told him, yeah, I love Paris too. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I've been there a few years ago too. And he goes like, I also took some French classes in high school too. And I was like, yeah, French. Yeah, I know French because I studied it at school.
Yo hubiera aprovechado y lo hubiera hablado en italiano.
And he goes like, wait, you studied it at school? And I goes like, yeah, I studied it because in Italy, we don't speak French and Paris isn't in Italy. So, yeah, that's it. In Italy, we speak Italian. In the capital of Italy is Rome. And he goes like, oh my God, how could I forget? Man.
What is a
Vale, ahí entiendo que un poco la confusión, pero iba a decir, me esperaba un poco de ¿qué? ¿Cómo que Roma cómo que París no está en Italia? Pero aquí fue un poco la confusión. Vale.
dumbest thing an American has ever said to you?
Excuse me, why do you speak Spanish? Well, a lot of my friends speak Spanish, so I decided to teach myself. It's not hard. You don't look Mexican. I'm not. I'm black. Wait, so you're black and you speak Spanish? And your English seems okay. Yes, black people can learn other languages. I mean, like, I guess, but, like, it doesn't make sense that you speak Spanish if you're not Mexican.
Entonces nosotros, los hispanohablantes, no podemos hablar inglés porque en teoría no parecemos ingleses.
I was in an Uber. He told me that, what are the last two letters of COVID? ID. There's microchips in the vaccine, and there's your proof. He continued to say, COVID-19, first letter of the alphabet is A, ninth letter is I, AI. They're turning us into robots. He also said that the vaccine is full of dead babies. Aborted babies.
Nah, pero esto es más en paranoico, no es un gringo. O sea, aquí hay gente así, aquí también hay en España y en todas partes.
And he doesn't want to be injected with a black girl baby. And then he ended it with telling me the pandemic's not real and started taking his mask off. And I told him, drop me off immediately.
Espero que denunciara eso en su momento porque en ese momento era ilegal.
He accused me of not being able to handle the truth.
I'm an American that has recently moved to London, and I've had multiple American friends ask me what language they speak here in England.
Inglaterra.
One even asked me if I had to learn French to live here.
England, English. Hostia, tío. Es que eso. Mira, eso es estupidez nivel en -5.
In England.
O sea, si no se le dan bien las localizaciones, me pregunto cómo se le darán las... Hostia, me dan miedo las matemáticas.
I was in San Diego last year. I was at a service station, just filling up the car with petrol. And I go up to the cashier and I'm like, oh yeah, just the petrol, thanks, mate. And he goes, oh shit, is that an accent? Where are you from? I'm just from Australia. Oh wow, that's like a really long way away. So, did you fly here or did you drive here?
No, fue nadando. Fue nadando desde Australia hasta Estados Unidos. Por el camino se enfrentó a un cocodrilo y se enfrentó a un tiburón blanco también. Pero nada, fue ameno el viaje.
A flu?
A fly?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit too far to drive, isn't it? I think about this all the bloody time. Like a howdy? What?
I mean, no shade to Americans because I do dumb shit all the time. But I once had a lady comment on a post when I said, thank God it's Friday. And she said, it's Thursday, hun. And I said, no, in Australia it's Friday. And then she accused me of gaslighting her, to which I answered, I'm going to blow your mind when I tell you that it's actually summer in Australia too, while you're in winter. And then she called me a terrorist.
Es que hasta yo sé eso. Es que yo he sabido todo eso desde que soy un adolescente. Incluso creo que desde antes. Por los Simpsons, es programa estadounidense. Y ni los mismos gringos saben lo que es la diferencia de horario ni las estaciones. Madre mía.
I'm kind of curious. What is the dumbest thing an American has ever said to you?
Okay, so true story. When I was a teenager, I was in Arizona visiting my best friend who lived out there, and I was there for the summer. And we met this girl, and she complimented my top, and she was like, "Oh, I really like your top. Where'd you get it?" And I was like, "Singapore." She goes, "Oh, is that a mall?"
Uy, perdón.
And I look at her and I was like, "No, it's in Asia." And I kid you not, she goes, "Is Asia a mall?"
Tal vez haya un centro comercial que se llame Asia, eso no te lo niego, pero ese nivel de analfabetismo, pero puro analfabetismo, es muy preocupante.
So I'm from Germany, but I've lived in Switzerland for my entire life until 2015 when my family moved to the US, and I spent 2 years living there, so I've heard a lot of dumb shit, but here's the worst of it. So one time I was with a group of people and I was on the phone with my friend in Germany, and when we hung up I said, "Good night, sleep well." And this guy is like, so he goes, "Why is she going to bed? It's like 3 p.m. And so I had to explain that because she's in Germany, she's 6 hours ahead because of time zones. And he looks really confused, like, and then he asked me if Germany is 6 hours ahead, why did nobody ever warn them about 9/11 happening? This guy literally thought that time zones meant that you could time travel.
Y hay VTubers que se quieren cambiar la comunidad gringa. Hay VTubers hispanohablantes que se quieren comunidad gringa. VTubers que estén viendo en esto. ¿De verdad quieren aguantar este tipo de comentarios? ¿De verdad quieren aguantarlos? Río por no llorar.
So I was talking to this guy. We had known each other for like 3 months, I think, and we were talking on the phone, and I was talking about my parents, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, I have a question. How come your parents speak Arabic?" I was like, "Well, it's their native language." And he was like, oh, really? I did not know people in that area spoke Arabic. Thought they only spoke Spanish. And I was like, no. If we were to speak any Western language, it would most likely be French, since we were colonized by the French.
Sí, hay países en el continente africano que fueron invadidos por españoles, franceses e ingleses.
Not the Spanish. And then he said, oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you, it's not pronounced Algeria, it's pronounced Argentina.
Gente, ¿de verdad se quieren cambiar la comunidad gringa? ¿De verdad se quieren cambiar la comunidad gringa? Porque yo no. Para escuchar estas cosas prefiero tenerlas a ustedes.
I had to explain to him that I came from an actual country called Algeria. And then I said, it's like next to Morocco. And he said, where's Morocco? And I said, well, in North Africa. And then there was a blank, and I said, yes, I am African.
So let's set the scene. It's...
¿Cómo que no es Argelia? Ay. Sí. Digo, hola. Hola, Janito, ¿qué tal?
Early July, and I'm in Marrakesh.
Marrakesh.
I've just checked into this hostel, and I'm sitting on one of these chairs here, by the pool. So this young couple from Georgia sparks up a conversation with me. So the couple invite me up to like the roof, this like roof patio thing, to see the fireworks. So we end up on the roof terrace here, mingling with various nationalities. And the Americans are asking like, does anyone know when the fireworks start? Everyone's a bit confused. Anyway, it transpires that it is the 4th of July, American Independence Day. We're in Morocco. There's maybe like 10 of us all trying to explain to this American couple why they probably don't have fireworks for the 4th of July in Marrakesh, Morocco.
O sea, el 4 de julio se celebra en Estados Unidos, como el Día de la Hispanidad, solo se celebra en España y en países hispanohablantes.
So when I was 16, I did an exchange program in the US.
Pero eres blanca, dijo alguien de Chicas Pesadas. Hola, Hiyori Moumi. Hola, Yuki. Estamos viendo aquí cosas que me están dando mucho cringe.
I'm from Brazil for 6 months, and I remember it was December time, and I was telling one of my friends how I had spoken to my parents, and they were at the beach because it was really hot.
¿Cuánta gente somos? Ay, pensaba que éramos 10, digo, a ver, a lo mejor llamo algo así la atención de algún streamer patente. Huele a comida, por cierto. Huele a comida y estoy sola, lo cual es preocupante. Pero bueno, huele a comida. Tal vez me acompañen ustedes a hacer la cena. Vaya.
And, you know, summer in Brazil at that time, and then she looked me straight in the eyes and asked me, oh, so is it July in Brazil now?
Bueno, al menos entendió que bueno, dentro de todo el alfabetismo entendió que en otro país hay otra estación. O sea, asumió que era julio. Creo que es una pregunta de todas las que he oído es la menos estúpida. Provecho, dile al fantasma que no olvide la sal.
So I live in Cancun, Mexico, and I've been working with American tourism for around 6 years now. And there was this time when a guy in his 40s came to the resort I was working in. It was his first time in Mexico, and he told me he wanted to book some tours. So I started writing down all the tours he wanted to do. He told me he wanted to visit Chichen Itza, Tulum, and Machu Picchu. So I stopped writing and told him Machu Picchu was not in Mexico, it was in Peru. And he asked me how much would it take to get there in a taxi. I told him it would take around from 5 to 6 hours by plane, and he was so mad. He began complaining that how come if we also had Mayan ruins, no one told him Machu Picchu was not here.
A ver, yo un poco lo entiendo porque sí, se da muy poca historia de la colonización latinoamericana y en general también en Europa. Aquí es muy pobre. Vale.
I'm curious, what is the dumbest thing an American has ever said to you?
So I'm Mexican, and I was working in Tulum.
Es un chango.
One day I was talking with this girl, and she said to me, I really wanted to visit Mexico in Cinco de Mayo to see your Independence Day. Sorry, what?
Gospel, explícame qué pasa el 5 de mayo.
Yeah, Cinco de Mayo, your Independence Day.
¡Ay, verdad! que ellos creen que el 5 de mayo es el día de la independencia para México. El 5 de mayo. ¿Por qué? No lo sé. Es fantasmatización puro, creen que esta gente. Nada, será una bocina haciendo comida.
Oh, actually, our Independence Day is on September 16.
Sí, de hecho sí, fue el mes pasado.
Don't lie to me. I know South American history, and I know that Mexico Independence Day, it's on Cinco de Mayo. Well, actually, no. Mexico's North America, and you can Google that. Actually, you can see that Mexico's Independence Day is on September 16. Oh my God, you have Google?
Todos tenemos Google, salvo China y Corea del Norte. El 5 de mayo se celebra la batalla de Puebla, donde el general Zaragoza derrotó al ejército americano. Es más una tradición del estado de Puebla, pero por una razón se confunde con el día de independencia. Entonces, es más de un estado que sí.
Yes, why? I mean, I'm really surprised that you can speak English and use Google.
¿Qué pedo? Sí, ¿qué pedo?
Okay, so I'm from Indiana. I'm from the Midwest. Temporarily,
Indiana está en Estados Unidos, ¿no? Creo.
though, I used to live in Los Angeles before moving out to the East Coast. So one day I was in LA and I was like, okay, like I want to change banks. I no longer wanted to be with the bank I was friends with. So I go in and I went to the teller and I was like, hey, I just want to close my account if that's okay. They're like, yeah, no problem. And I go, perfect. They're like, can we see your ID? I said, yeah. Hand them my ID and they're like, I'm so sorry, like, do you have a United States ID? That's just what we're gonna need to go ahead and confirm. I said, that is my Indiana ID. This is my driver's license. I'm from Indiana. And they said, no, I'm so sorry, but this is not a United States ID. Do you have any other form of ID? They're like, this says Indiana. I go, I know. Indiana is a state. I'm from...
Dios mío, esto es... O sea... Entiendo que no puedas saber de otros continentes. Entiendo que no puedas saber de otros países que hay en otros continentes. Entiendo que puedas confundir Portugal con que es una ciudad de España, que no es un país tal. Entiendo que hay gente que piensa que Portugal es parte de España, que no es así. Pero no conocer tu propio país es muy preocupante. De hecho, muchos se preguntan por qué es una celebración en sí, ya que solo se ganaron la batalla y ese día el resto de la pelea perdieron. Qué estupidez, Dios.
Indiana, and they said, no, I need to see a United States ID. And I was just like...
Indiana está en Estados Unidos.
I'm sorry, what is our education system?
Es una muy buena pregunta. ¿Qué pasa en Estados Unidos? O sea, yo critico cosas de mi sistema educativo de mi país porque siento que estamos hechos para estudiar cosas y vomitar, pero yo me quedo con cosas. Aquí es preocupante.
So I grew up in the States, and when I was 16 years old, I moved back to Argentina with my family.
Okay.
So a friend of mine messaged me and said, oh, I can't believe you moved back. And I told him, yes, it's so crazy now here. It's winter time, and it's the complete opposite of the US, since during the summer in the US, it's winter in Argentina. And he goes, oh, it's winter over there? So is it Christmas time now?
No.
And I go, no, it's August. But isn't Christmas during winter time? So it has to be Christmas.
Dios mío. Es que... Necesito que los Simpsons se burlen de esto. Lo necesito. O un programa actual pero se dice... Es Navidad en Venezuela ahora mismo. Eso es verdad, ¿no? Ya en Venezuela han empezado las fiestas navideñas, ¿no?
Now. And I go, no, Christmas is in December.
So I'm an American expat who's lived abroad for over 10
¿Cómo que expatriada?
years. And every year I hear other Americans ask, why doesn't this country celebrate Thanksgiving? I tell everyone I'm Canadian now.
No sé por qué es expatriada, pero... sí, ¿no? como lo de el Día de Acción de Gracias es únicamente de Estados Unidos. Únicamente de Estados Unidos. De hecho, hubo un tiempo, yo de chiquitilla, yo me preguntaba por qué en mi casa no celebramos el Día de Acción de Gracias. Y ya con el tiempo como que se me olvidó. Halloween sí lo celebramos ahora.
I once flew from London to Houston, and when I got to the border, the TSA agent took my British passport, my return ticket to London, and then proceeded to ask me where did I learn how to speak English.
Es que hasta los latinos saben de dónde viene su idioma. Los estadounidenses no.
And when I kind of said England, she said, "Oh, you guys speak English out there too?"
England, Inglaterra, English, inglés. Yo pensaba que ese día se decían gracias entre sí. Que al menos Halloween viene de Celta y hubo preparaciones de ello en España, efectivamente. Y de hecho aquí ya se celebraba el día de los es el día de los muertos el 1 de noviembre. Bueno, no el día de los muertos, no, el día de todos los santos, perdón, me equivoqué.
One time I was in high school and this girl asked me what I was. I told her I'm Egyptian, my family's from Egypt. She said, no, tell me the truth, where are you really from?
Oh, claro, que piensa que si eres africana todos son negros. Es verdad, estadounidense, soy de África, ¿por qué no eres negro?
From. I told her I'm not lying, I'm from Egypt.
¿No han visto El Príncipe de Egipto, esta gente? Peliculón, por cierto, una de las mejores de DreamWorks.
She said, no, you don't understand. Egypt literally doesn't exist.
Como Chile. Chile tampoco existe.
And I was like, no, it actually does. I go there.
¿De dónde creen que sacan lo de las películas de las pirámides?
Every summer to visit my family. She's like, no, you don't get it. Egypt literally doesn't exist. The US is the world. There's
Entonces para él no existe. ¿Qué te espera de gente que dice que la patria negra? Es verdad. No, es peor. Este piensa, Egipto no existe.
no other country. I said,
No será entonces yo tampoco.
so what are they teaching us in history then? She said, oh no, those are just stories. Egypt doesn't exist.
O sea, Roma tampoco existe.
So I'm born and raised in the States, but my family's Brazilian, and I would often go back to Brazil to go and visit my other relatives. When I would come back from Brazil and go to school, people would ask me how I was posting stuff. And I would say, what do you mean? And they were like, don't they not have internet there? And I would just be completely dumbfounded. And I would say, what do you mean? Of course we have internet. And they would ask me, how do you get it? So I would
¿Compañías telefónicas?
literally tell them, oh, we have a monkey and we bribe him with a coconut. And we have him run on a spinning wheel. And that's how our internet works. And they believe me.
Pobre perrito, se subiera a una cesta que no existe y se parece que es el pobre. Gente, todos somos irreales, no existimos. Lo cual, nos han mentido. El pensar no nos hace existir.
Me.
So my family is originally
Lo peor es que se lo creyeron, porque eso lo dije con sarcasmo y no, la gente se lo creyó.
from Peru. I'm the first one in our family that was
Un peruano, pe causa.
raised in the States. And a few years ago, I was talking to a coworker about places where we'd like to live. And I said, I've never really been more than a city kid. Like, I've always been either near or in a city. And she asked me, weren't you born in Peru? And I was like, yes. She goes, wait, I don't understand. Like, how are you in a city in Peru? And I was like, I was born in Lima, the largest city in the country, and one of the largest in South America. And she was like, oh, shoot, so it's like a real city with, like, buildings and stuff?
Por supuesto.
I was like, yes, how did you think I was born? And she goes, well, have you ever seen Emperor's New Groove?
Claro, y luego se convirtió en llama porque que Isma le puso veneno. O sea, me encanta. No, Dios. Mira, ya me brava. Ay.
I thought you were like born in a hut with like a llama next to you.
Ay.
That may be the truth for some, but it's not my truth. Her mind was blown when I said we had cities in South America.
Ay. No sé, yo entiendo que lo piense uno de chico, de adolescente, pero ya siendo adulto es difícil.
Well, I am from northern Mexico, and 2 years ago I was on the beach.
Ya de casualidad no te llamas Pacha.
I was talking to an American, and he thought I was British. I think it was because of my accent. So I asked him what
Por tu acento y por tu aspecto, la verdad.
he thinks about Mexicans, and he said something like this. Well, Mexicans don't prosper because they are dark, short, ugly, eat beans every day, and they have no education. So they have to go to my country. And then I said, what? Are you mental? I am Mexican, bro. There's nothing wrong with being dark. And yeah, I like beans, but today I had lobster for dinner. And I am about 4 inches taller than you.
Era decirle la verdad, no humillarlo. Ese de que ellos creen en Santa Claus por siempre. No jodas, ¿creen de verdad en Santa Claus?
And by the way, I think I am more handsome than you.
¡Lo papeó, gente! ¡Lo papeó! Esa estuvo buena. No, hubiera sido más... ¿Nos confirmas eso, Gospel? O sea, tío, la segunda parte. Hostia. ¡Un Soleil! Hostia. Sí, confirmo. ¿Qué confirmas? Ay, Dios. Eso me ha matado. Ay. La segunda parte es la que vi más o menos por encimilla, pero... Me quedé dormida. Sí, confirmo. Gente, vemos la segunda parte.